What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new video, and in today's video I'm going to be ranking every single one of my Friday the 13th Jason Voorhees action figures from NECA, from my least favorite to my favorite. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alrighty, so coming up in last place for me is Jason from the remake of Friday the 13th. Not a particularly huge fan of this movie, nor too big of a fan of the design for Jason. I definitely do like the jacket and shirt combination that was kind of started in Freddy versus Jason, and then they kind of carried it over to here. I know a lot of people prefer the button-down, type of Jason with just a plaid shirt and everything like that. I do think it's not too bad of a design. It's definitely not NECA's fault. It's more of the fault of the people who created the design for Jason. I just think Jason's neck in this movie is too big. He's got a big goofy head. It doesn't really come off on figure how big his head is in the movie. His mask is actually a lot smaller looking because the head is so big in the film. And it just didn't look right in the movie. I do think NECA did a good job at recreating it for the most part. He's got this yellowed, soiled shirt, which I do think is a little too soiled. It's just a little bit too dark. Obviously, this is like the second version of this figure they created. They had a regular version years ago that didn't have all the articulation and everything. He does come with a machete. He comes with a hatchet and a few other accessories. I do not like the hair on this guy. He did have hair over here, but I tore it off, and I tore the hair off here too. I still got to finish gluing it. I never fully glued it back on. And the hair, it's too thick. It's really noticeable. Whereas in the film, it really wasn't like that. It was just more very stringy hair that was hard to say. Take the mask off. I think they did a fantastic job in recreating this head sculpt. He just got a bit of a square head going on. He's got the glossy gray blinded eye. He's got the hair lip. He kind of looks like Three Finger from Wrong Turn. I've always thought that. Love the hockey mask. The eyes are way too big. They cut out the eye holes too much. I don't know if that's just a defect on mine or if that's on all of them, but his eye holes are way too big on this. But I like the overall classic look of the mask. So it is a good figure, definitely, but just my least favorite out of all the ones that I own from NECA. Next up on this list, we have Jason from Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Now, I actually really do dig this design of Jason in the movie. I know a lot of people don't particularly love this design. I know a lot of people don't like the gardening gloves and the utility belt, but actually, I really like that about this version of Jason. I think they did a decent job with this figure compared to the in-film version. I have a few nitpicks. I feel like he looks a little too stocky in the shoulder areas. I feel like this Jason was definitely a bit of a thinner Jason. It was played by two different actors, so he does look different in certain scenes. I do not like the mask on this figure. I do not like how they just covered in the eye holes like that. It's just too noticeable. I also don't think the mask is rounded enough. I feel like it's a very long, long shape. I feel like it should be a bit more rounder. But I do love all the detail. He's got the blood on the pants. He's got the blow dart, or like the throwing darts in his little satchel there. He does have his machete that's in there. He's also got a knife in there. Comes with a spear. If we take off the mask, I don't know how I feel about this head sculpt for Jason. It's definitely not one of the better looking head sculpts for Jason, just in general. Nothing on NECA. I think they did a pretty good job. I feel like it's a little too green. I feel like he would have been more of a brown color in the film. Also, with his mask, the axe wound is very unpronounced. It's hard to tell it's even there, and it's not even like a crack that's in the mask. It's just an indent that they kept there. So they did a lot of shortcuts with this mask to stop it from being how it actually was in the film. Also, I don't like the chevron on this mask. It's not wide enough. Jason's chevron, this almost looks more like a Part 7 chevron. And I know this is so nitpicky, but Jason's chevron in Part 6 would have been wider than it is in Part 7. So I do think, again, like, they did a really good job on this figure, recreating it very faithfully. It's just not one of my top favorite Jasons. Of course, I do not have all of them, but, still working on that part. Next up on this list, we have Jason from Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood. Now, I know this is definitely a hot take. I do like this Jason. I like him a lot. He's one of my favorite designs for Jason, as he pretty much is for everybody. But my main issue with this figure is all the rubber pieces on it. It really hinders his articulation, mainly in the leg area. His legs have this wide stance, and it makes him really hard to stand sometimes. Also, I think the chain is a little too tight around his neck. Wish it hung a little looser. But overall, man, this is just a design sculpting feat for NECA. This is one of their best designs I've ever seen them do. This thing looks fucking spot on, man. This is a great sculpt, a great design. Take off the mask. One of their best head sculpts they've ever done by far. I mean, just look at that. The amount of rotting and just this nastiness they were able to capture in that head sculpt while still making it accurate to the film is just incredible. If we turn around, you can see like his spine and everything. You can feel it too. It's like it's there, man. It's crazy. You can see like, you know, different parts of his bones and see a bit of his rib cage. And the crazy part is too, if you lift up the shirt, it's all there, you know. It is all sculpted in. So it's just it's a great looking figure. Definitely one of their best looking figures. Just not particularly my favorite in terms of design. I do like a few designs better than this version of Jason. I love that they didn't go with the shortcut of having the fucking eyes filled in like they did with the last one, with Part 6 Jason. He does come with a fuckload of accessories. This Jason may come with the most accessories. I don't know what this is called. I don't know if it's like a bushwhacker or what it is. He also comes with a tent stake that's all bloodied up. He comes with a shitload of more of accessories. But this Jason's just awesome, man. I also love how his teeth are exposed. He's got the axe wounds in the head. It's an absolutely... Oh, there goes my light. There's an absolutely beautiful looking Jason. Next up, we have Jason from Friday the 13th, Part 2. This figure is fucking awesome. I really do love this figure. This is one of my favorites. Designs for Jason in general. I love the sack head look. I love that it's something different because Jason's look is kind of... It doesn't change all that much throughout the films. Obviously, there are some minute changes, like different... like looks to the hockey mask and things like that, and like wardrobe, like you know, damage and things. But for the most part, this is one of the most unique looks for Jason we have gotten, and I personally love this look. I didn't mind it when I first saw Part 2, and I definitely don't mind it now. I love the whole, you know, obviously it's inspired by the Town That Dreaded Sundown. That killer wore a bag on his head too. And I love it. I just love the blue overalls. I love the whole color contrasting. It looks really, really good. And NECA did an outstanding job. Now, this is their third release of this figure, which I did explain in another video before. He was released in a 2-pack with Pamela Voorhees, and he was also released in a singles pack. He was part of the, I think it was the Hall of Fame wave, or the NECA Cult Classics line. I forget which one he was a part of for that, but he obviously didn't have the articulation. He had no articulation here and in the knees, which I was okay with. But the shitty part was his arms were stuck in this position to hold the fucking pickaxe or fork or whatever you want to hold him with. Just love the detailing on the head there. Get some nice detailing there on the eye. Just get a nice up close shot of that. Yeah, very clearly he has a blue eye. You know, obviously, God only knows what color it actually was in real life. Probably blue. I love this kind of just stains that he's got going on there on the mask. He's painted beautifully. It's not just a consistent color. You know, it's different colors and everything. He's also got the little tie that's around his neck, like the noose looking thing. It's just an awesome looking mask. I think Jason was very scary in this movie. Even though he was kind of a bitch, you know, he kind of got slapped around a lot. He wasn't very strong or intimidating looking. He was kind of goofy looking. I don't know. There was just something about the one eye that made it so intimidating, you know, versus, you know, seeing two eyes. I don't know. There's just something about that, in my opinion, that just makes it a little bit more scary. Next up on this list, we have Jason from Friday the 13th, Part 3. Now, this may or may not be influenced by nostalgia. I have a lot of nostalgia for this figure. This was one of my favorite action figures in the world back in the day. It wasn't obviously this version. It was the clamshell release version. Because he did have two different clamshell releases, which I think both were better than this figure, to be honest with you. But that's kind of the reason why I rate this figure so high. Is it just brings back a lot of memories of that original figure, and just the nostalgia of that. Which I wish I still had those figures because they were gorgeous figures. My main issue with this figure, I think, first of all, I just want to preface this. This is the re-release of the Ultimate version. There was an original version, and then NECA always re-releases their figures. They always do a first version, and then they'll do a second release. This is the second release. The first release was really bad. He had a lot of black lines going on in the shirt. It was too much. It looked almost like had a cartoonish NES type look going on, and it didn't look right. I don't like his eyes on this mask. Let me take... Actually, you know, I don't even need to take the axe out. You can see the eye holes, I think, are a little too big on this figure. They were definitely not that big in the film. Obviously, I always keep this head sculpt on because there's blood on the neck, which there's nothing really they can do about that. You can't remove the blood for the other head sculpt, so I always just keep him with this head sculpt. And I like having the axe in his head, which I think is cool. I'm going to remove the mask. Let's see if I can keep the axe in his mask. There we go. I actually did it. Shocked. Great looking head sculpt, fantastic looking. I feel like the detail is just a little bit less though on this version than it was on the original clamshell release version. I don't know what it is. It's just the original clamshell release just looked more realistic than this version. I don't know if it's the blood with all the black that's in there or whatever. It just doesn't look as realistic to me. But it's still an awesome looking figure, you know. I wish that the blood on his knee looked a little bit more red. It kind of looks more like grape juice than it does actual blood. You get the blood on his shirt there. So obviously I have him set to an extreme battle damage look. He comes with a shitload of accessories. You know, I love the detailing on the mask too, how it's starting to scratch off on the nose, the chevron up there starting to scratch off. And obviously the axe wound in the forehead, which I always like to keep in. It just looks cool when displaying it, you know? Just having that axe wound right there in the head looks fantastic. So yeah, great figure. Definitely influenced a little bit by nostalgia. But still, just don't want that. I don't want to take anything away from the figure, you know? And coming in first place, we have Jason from Freddy vs. Jason. You guys already know I am obsessed with this design for Jason. I know what everyone hates it. I don't. I really like this version of Jason too. I think the reason I like this version of Jason so much is because he acts a little bit more like Michael Myers in this movie. He's a very slow walker. The way his walk looks more reminiscent to Michael Myers. The way he acts, I feel like, is a little bit more reminiscent to Myers in this movie. And I don't know, I think that's just why I like this version of Jason a bit more. I also love how big he is. He's fucking huge in this movie. Obviously, he's wearing these goofy-ass Frankenstein boots. Definitely do like how big he is, though. Also, he's my favorite version, like my favorite actor for Jason, Ken Kersinger. I love what he did in this role. I know everybody likes Kane Hodder. I know. I love Kane Hodder, too. He's my second favorite Jason. He also talked about playing Michael Myers. Hopefully, I would like to see that one day, but I would be a little nervous that he wouldn't know the nuances that goes into the character, because Jason and Michael Myers, from face value, they are very similar characters because Jason's literally a copy of Myers, but at their core, they are very different characters. So I feel like there's certain nuances to Michael that aren't with Jason. Like, you know, Jason's got more of an animalistic thing going on where he's very like vicious and brutal. He's got the heavy breathing. He like stomps around. Michael is very just absent. There's almost nothing there, which is the charming part about him. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I love just all the tethered clothing he's got going on. You know, he's got this tethered undershirt. The mask is fantastic. I obviously have the one with the claws going through. You take the head sculpt off, it is a fucking hideous head sculpt. Not a fault of NECA, just how it was designed in the movie, because this is how it looks in the film. There are behind-the-scenes shots. He's got some wisps of gray hair sticking out off the back, which look good. Part of me wishes NECA would actually use like actual mohair or something, rather than just plastic sculpting, but it's alright. Obviously, he's got the flaming machete. I never liked the machete in this movie. It looks more like a fucking sword from like Thundercats or some shit. It's just huge. Like, no real life machete looks like this. But I get what they were trying to do. They wanted to beef it up a little bit, make it more menacing looking, obviously, because he's going up against Freddy, who looks like an idiot, but, you know. Not a huge fan of this movie. I think it's a dumb movie. It could have been good. It was made in the early 2000s, and everybody knows how early 2000s horror is. Halloween Resurrection, Scream 3, Jason X, this movie. Early 2000s horror just wasn't it, man. Had a lot of corny jokes going on in it. It wasn't very scary at all. Mainly because a lot of the main characters that were humans didn't really take some of the villains too seriously, you know. You got Freddy getting made fun of and things like that. And just a lot of corny jokes and a lot of stupid things that the characters do. It's almost, Freddy vs. Jason almost feels like a parody of the two franchises, which sucks, but you know, still badass looking figure, love it. And yeah, he is taking the #1 spot of all my Jason figures. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.